Hello, Steve White, Trek 89 for Steve White's 89. Well, I just watched the final episode of Season 1 of Prodigy, Episode 10, AMoralStar Part 2. It was good. It went pretty quick. Basically, they restore the power. They use the ankle bracelets that were part of the prisoners being kept on the planet as universal translators and communicate, and they're able to coordinate all the kids or prisoners or slaves or whatever they were categorized as, and they actually turn on the Diviner's henchmen, and they manage to basically win back the station, the asteroid, the mining thing, whatever it is, and they pretty much save themselves, and the rescue mission is successful in that sense, except before he's destroyed, the Diviner's henchman, sends the coordinates back to the Diviner, and they manage to beam the proto-core out of Murph. So he ends up having it. Now he's on the ship. Goff Janeway basically is helping him with everything. Gwen tries to stop him earlier, but he uses her weapon against her because he gave it to her so he can control it as well. But she manages to, and we don't see any of this, she manages to get Janeway back online and upgrade her so she can't be taken over again or shut off again, and actually gives her, physicality where I guess they basically use force fields and that to give her a physical body, and she actually fights him and breaks his whatever liquid he's using to breathe, oxygen, whatever it is, and he ends up on the floor struggling to breathe while Gwen is basically about to lower the shield so everyone else can come onto the ship. But then he convinces her not to, because he tells a story of saving her race because they were the last ones, and he explains to her, I've come back in time, our people still exist, and he takes her to the holodeck and explains to her that after first contact with the Federation, their race fell into civil war. Basically, they were racial supremacists or something, and they split up because part of their culture wanted to grow and move on and work with other Starfleet and other aliens. The others wanted to stay, I guess, insular and not do that. So they were isolationists or whatever. So they fought, they destroyed their own planet, and he blamed Starfleet for that. And his solution was to destroy Starfleet in the past before first contact could be made, rather than just, communicate with them and say, your contact with us destroys our entire race and culture. Perhaps not make first contact with us, thanks, yeah. Could be solved with, an official email pretty much from the government. But no, instead he's going to destroy all of Starfleet. How is he going to do that? He has put some sort of weapon on the protostar that when it comes into contact with a Starfleet ship, it will somehow communicate some sort of virus that's going to either destroy all the ships or turn all the ships against each other. He actually said it would turn them against each other. So I'm not sure exactly how that booby trap is going to work, but basically Gwen realizes we can't go back to Starfleet, we can't join Starfleet, we can't ever be a part of Starfleet because of the ship. So eventually, I've forgotten the name of the kid, the captain shows up and he fights her, and Zero opens up his shell basically and reveals himself to the Diviner and drives him insane. Unfortunately, Gwen, who is looking in the captain's eyes, I'm going to call him the captain because I can't remember his damn, Dell, is looking into his eyes, but she looks at his Starfleet logo, badge, communicator. I'm not sure if it's a communicator still, I think it is. And she sees part of the reflection of the Medusan of Zero, and she loses her mind, and all she can do is repeat the same thing over and over again. Now, basically, to an extent, everything's solved, All the kids have basically been given the mining asteroid base, whatever it was, to basically use as their ship to go off and do whatever. Everyone else goes back onto the Protostar and prepares to go back to the Federation. Gwen recovers because, she'd only seen part of the Medusan, so all that happened was she lost her memory, including the memory of the booby trap, the bomb that basically is the Protostar. So we see the USS Dauntless and Captain or Admiral Janeway or whatever, I don't know what position she is now, is on the ship, and they are alerted to the fact that they've seen traces of the Protostar drive. So they go off to meet it, and they have no idea that they're going to their doom and the Federation's doom, and the Protostar has no idea that they are basically going to destroy Starfleet by making contact with them. So that's where the series ends, and it was fairly well done. It was very quick. The story went really fast. Some parts I think were a bit neglected, where they just jumped over parts, but they were just, on the way to the overall story. So it seemed like in the moment I'm like, why aren't they dealing with this? And then it just, went so far past it didn't matter. But aside from a few little moments where I felt like they were just going really fast, the rest of it really worked out well, and the characters had enough time that, you connected with them emotionally. I actually was moved by the idea that Gwen had, lost her mind and had been lost in the battle, and that they had won, but they had to destroy the Diviner, who, as evil as he was trying to destroy Starfleet, was also trying to save his own race. So it was interesting, but again, I think I've said this before, unfortunately the show resembles Star Wars more than Star Trek, so it's a good show so far as a kids' animated science fiction show, generic show, but it resembles Star Wars more than Star Trek. So it's Star Trek in name only, in IP only. But like I said, the show is so good, the characters are good, the stories are good, it's well written, the 3D art, basically, the 3D animation is beautiful. But it just makes me wish that they'd done a Star Trek show like this. Like, what would it be like to see the Federation in this sort of animation and see all the, different starships and stuff, and the alien races we already know, and because this crew is more like, like a Star Wars crew. It's just a bunch of random aliens that are just a ragtag bunch of renegades who are, together in the rebellion to try and beat the Empire, and they're all constantly running from or trying to beat, this villain that's just following them around. And that's what this series was just like. It was just like Star Wars. It wasn't a crew of people that have all been trained together or all, work together. They have expertise, they're sophisticated, they're evolved, and they're all unified, going out into the world, into the universe to explore and to encounter and deal with new worlds and new civilizations from that base of unity. And it's just not what the series is. Now, there's something to be said for these kids learning how to be more like Starfleet and the examples that can give. But again, the story of Star Trek isn't finding or building stuff, the utopian future that we already had in Star Trek. It's being within that and exploring from that. And all we keep getting is we're going to, in some cases, set the show before we believe Starfleet is, sort of gelled together, and just show getting to that point, or we're going to dismantle it or separate people from Star Trek, Starfleet, and then have them go back to it or piece it back together or repair it. It's always in this state of finding, rediscovering, or rebuilding, as opposed to actually being in that reality and just exploring space and humanity from that perspective of that utopian future with those evolved people that are unified. And so that's what I miss about Star Trek, and what I miss in these shows is I just feel like we're going through the same story over and over again of let's rebuild, let's find Star Trek, find Starfleet, and we never really get there. And if we do, that's where it ends. Like, the end of the story is where the story should start, where Star Trek should start. It's always where the new Trek stories sort of end. So I never get what I want from the show, and it feels more like Star Wars, where it's just about having an enemy, chasing the enemy, escaping the enemy, defeating the enemy, freeing, the people, and then that's where that ends. We never really saw, Star Wars as a, after the Empire where everything was good. We just had another Empire basically take over and replace them, and have the same issues all over again in the third trilogy, 7, 8, 9. So I just feel like they've just done that with Star Trek. So that's my complaint. So the show overall is good, it's enjoyable, it works, but it's not really Star Trek. And as a Star Trek fan wanting Star Trek, I'm not getting what I want from it. But that's enough of my rant for this week. Overall, the episode was good for what it was. But yeah, I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.